On the next episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored, we are going to discuss body dysmorphia. It sounds terrible, and guess what? It kind of is. So please listen to the next episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. On this episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored, Dr. Raban, we're going to go right into the freak show. I'm just going to call it that. Welcome to the jungle. Because that's what body dysmorphia, when I see cases of this, you know, it's a hot topic, almost up there with you know, celebrity plastic surgery, are how these people have these unrealistic expectations. They don't see themselves. I'm going to let you take it away from here, but it's just like a freak show to me.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, for us, it's a freak show. For them, it's a reality. And so let's start with defining the topic.
Yes.
So body dysmorphia is a psychological condition in where the individual who is affected by it looks in the mirror and doesn't see what actually is occurring. So a typical example is anorexia comes from body dysmorphia. You look in the mirror and you're like, oh my God, I'm so fat. Now, mind you, you're 5'8" and you weigh 103 pounds, and everyone in the world is looking at you like, oh my God, you need an IV and some a feeding tube, but you keep looking at yourself as being fat. And so body dysmorphia is when your brain does not see the reality of what life is. And then so obviously when you're that way, you then start to chase the thing it is that you're trying to get away from. So if you think you're fat, you keep trying to lose weight. If you think that you are, like, for example, I'm aging and I look so, and then all of a sudden you keep getting plastic surgery done. That's one form of body dysmorphia.
Like that Wildenstein lady, would that be called body dysmorphia?
Well, the other body dysmorphia can be that way, or the other issue is when you start to chase these like very typical is the Catwoman.
Wildenstein.
Or Ken, or the real life Ken, or people who are trying to transform themselves into looking either like a celebrity or an animal or an inanimate doll. There's this, and it's not, forget about the people that are doing it for celebrityism or the people that are doing it purposefully. I'm talking about the people that physically think that they need to do these things. So that's the background. Mind you, like anything else, diabetes, any other thing, there's always shades of gray.
I was going to say there's degrees of it.
So there's shades of gray. So what does that mean? That means like we're talking about the frank, fulminant, like blown out cases. Those are easy to identify. The danger in plastic surgery is the subtleties and the nuances of people with this condition, which are walking into plastic surgery offices all the time. So as a plastic surgeon, my job is to not step on the landmine, right? Like, how am I supposed to figure out which patient is normal and sane and which patient is dysfunctional and not normal when they come in and say, hey, I want my nose done? So, you know, for me personally, that's why I spent an hour. I mean, who spends an hour with anyone? I spent almost an hour with each consult. Part of it is to get the information, but part of it is to spend enough time with them to like, oh, wait a second. This is not all making sense. So when people are
there symptoms when you're interviewing someone?
So what are the things that people present with?
Right.
They keep pointing to something that seems incredibly minor, and they make it seem like it's horribly major. Okay. So for example, I'll see a young lady or a young gentleman and they come in for their nose and they're like, I just hate my nose. It's awful. It's just ruining my life. I just can't even look in the mirror. To be honest, I haven't been in a photo in years. And then you look at their nose and you're like, wow, their nose looks better than mine. I mean, like, yeah, maybe they have the tiniest little hump or maybe a little, but the way they're describing it and the actual nose are just two separate things. So what happens? The biggest danger is operating on them. The minute you touch it, you own it. So you're greedy, or you didn't spend 5 minutes to talk to them, or you actually don't care. And this person comes in, you're like, okay, great. Nope, you want your nose done? No problem. And you operate on them. Do you think that person will ever be happy?
No.
They'll become your worst nightmare. No less you will have done damage to them. Because you're going to do their nose, whatever, and they're going to come back and be like, oh my God, it's worse. And whatever was causing them the symptoms to begin with has not gone away.
No.
So their nose is a little smaller. You think they're going to suddenly be like, oh, it looks beautiful. So body dysmorphia is more than just the freak shows. It's the subtleties. And as practitioners, so we always talk, who's responsible? Like, who's got to figure this out?
Well, let me ask you a difference. In another show, we talked about how famous people, and I specifically said Priscilla Presley, like, how do you go from looking in the mirror, a little filler's good, a little more is a little better, keep going, keep going, keep going. And you said it was the equivalent of being like a drift in the tide.
Yes.
But there's a difference, I think, between, or is there not? Because I even asked you, I said, at what point do you look in the mirror and go, this isn't good, and now you have to kind of reel it in?
So I think that you made a very, so let's talk about essentially what is a psychology. How does one
Right.
go from being arguably normal?
Correct. And normal looking.
Normal looking, whether it's attractive or not is important.
Correct.
It's normal looking.
Normal looking.
To looking abnormal, freakish, bizarre, ruined, etc. How does that happen? Sure, there are the rare cases where it's
Medical.
somebody gets botched.
Right.
Like you go in, you do 3 surgery, like you do, like the guy does your face, your eyelids, and you come out and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
They represent the incredible minority.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of people gradually, systematically, and intentionally start having surgeries and filler and so on. And just, as I said to you, the analogy is you go out and you're playing with your friends, you get into the water and you're at the beach and you guys are just playing and you're not paying attention. And then before you know it, you look into the shore and you're like 2 miles offshore.
Exactly.
You're like, what the? There was no huge wave.
So it's gradual.
It's gradual. And what happens is you have this image. So like celebrities, for example. Celebrities have an image of what, so they're under the biggest magnifying glass. You look in the mirror and you have your expectations for yourself. What do you think if you're being photographed and people are like looking to see if you have a jowl when you look down? Like you're constantly being scrutinized. So you're under a greater magnifying glass. And so you go into your doctor and that doctor and you say, hey, listen, I don't like the way I'm starting to look. And you come up with a plan. And that plan is filler, facelift, Botox, whatever the hell it is. And you do it. And sure enough, it fixes this little, it's a little like a little Band-Aid.
Okay.
Then you look in the mirror again and you start being like, well, okay, yeah, it's better, but, and there's that but. And you go back to that practitioner and you say, and that practitioner says, well, yeah, okay, well, we can do more of it. More of what? More of the thing that we did the first time, because that obviously worked. And so the next thing you know, you do more of it. And then you're a celebrity and you're on TV and you go on a red carpet. And then what happens is, I always make the analogy between children and parents.
Okay.
Children will always want cookies.
I'm an adult and I want cookies, Roddy.
I know, but you have a childlike nature about you, okay?
But I fight.
But it's your inner child, really.
Yeah, I fight.
So children will ask for cookies.
Uh-huh.
That's not abnormal. That would be the equivalent of a person asking to look younger, prettier, more youthful. Mm-hmm. Parents have a responsibility to take the cookie away from the child because they're going to get cavities, diabetes, and get fat. And to monitor and regulate how many cookies their kids get based on it's dessert time or you earned this.
So at some point.
So doctors,
Okay. That's what I was getting.
Practitioners, whoever the hell has got the syringe needs to say, yeah, I know you want to look better, but this extra syringe is going to push you over the top. This is not you don't need your skin of your eyelids taken. There is nothing there. You don't need another pull around your neck. And so what is the problem?
Who does that I'm asking you, I'm not being facetious.
Who does that?
How frequently do doctors?
1%, 2%, 4%.
It's a small percentage.
Right. So we've had 5 episodes where people have come on, our patients, and they've brought their friends, and I've said no or whatever. You know me. I'm going to tell you but the reality is, think about it. First of all, issue number 1 is now, before you would go and the only people that were doctors are super well-trained people. Don't get me wrong. Well-trained people are also unscrupulous, but much less. Now you go and get something done and it's everybody, dentists, pediatricians, ER doctors, people that barely pass residency.
Botox parties. People just go to a house and drink wine and get shot up in the face.
So all these providers are now out there. And so patients are now, the parents, so to speak, are not really legit parents. They're more like teenagers.
They're like
so like a
hippies.
teenager is raising a child as opposed to a grown adult. And so they're not regulating it. So when the woman comes in, for God's sakes, especially a celebrity walks into your office and says, I want X. Do you really think a doctor's going to be like, no, Mrs. Presley, you don't really need filler at $5,000 a syringe? The hell he ain't. He's going to be like, load it up. Because they're greedy, they're unscrupulous. The patient is a child, wants to look better, and that's the cocktail for disaster.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess my question, forget the morality, just the pure face. At some point, should somebody have told Michael Jackson, your nose is going to cave in, you're going to get necrosis, and you're going to have to wear a makeup prosthetic?
You know when? 17 surgeries ago.
Yeah.
So the reality is that people come in, and then the question is, you ask me, do people really not, like, they don't know they look bad?
No, I've asked you, because how can you look in the mirror and see that your face looks like a full baby diaper, and you're like,
no, but they do know. So let me tell you how that works.
Okay, how do you? Okay.
So they know that it doesn't look right, but they don't know why and how. So I see patients all the time. They come in, hi, how are you? How can I help you? It's usually something to this effect. I don't know. I don't like the way I look. What do you suggest? I think I need and they come up with some cockamamie thing that they need. So I'll look them in the face and I'll give them the mirror and I'll say, do you realize that you have way too much filler in your face? Do you like this look? How about the lips? Do you realize that your lips are pouty and hanging out and you're slurring like you've saliva? And I swear to God, 9 out of 10 will be like, no, I really don't like the way it looks. They don't know how they got there. It's much like an abusive relationship with a woman or a man who's involved in a relationship who over years of battery gets to a place and you're asking yourself as an outsider, like, how on earth are you still in this relationship? And you sit him down, you're like, I know. I don't know why, but I just can't get out. It's the same gradual psychology. Everyone thinks it's abrupt, like it's just easy, but it's not. It's an incremental delusion of the way you look.
And it's psychological. It sounds like you're saying it's 100% psychological.
Nothing other than psychological.
Until you make them stare in the mirror.
But you have to have a dialogue with them. You as the doctor, you as the parent, you as the expert, need to sit down with them and say, listen, you're a beautiful woman or a handsome gentleman, but let's be honest. Do you think your lips look in proportion right now? I mean, do you genuinely think this looks good?
Can you do that?
Oh, all the time.
And have you ever had anybody really come unhinged because you?
No, I never had anyone come unhinged. I have reversed so much filler in my lifetime. It's unbelievable. Because then what I say is, okay, so, and usually they'll say, no, I don't really think it looks really great. I just didn't know what else to do. I'll say, well, why don't we do this? Let's start from the beginning. And as I said to you, most times you don't have that choice. If you've had a bunch of facelifts, there's no going back, a bunch of eyelid surgery, no. But filler, at least thank God you can reverse. So I reverse all of it and we start from scratch. So I think the reality is, so what are my take-home points? The take-home point number one is you have to identify somebody who you trust. When I go to a lawyer, he's the expert. So if he were to advise me to do X, I have to be able to trust that he or she knows what they're talking about. I'm not the expert. If I end up trusting my lawyer, next thing you know, I'm in bankruptcy or litigation, wow, I'm going to get screwed. And when you have a doctor, an accountant, a pharmacist, by the nature of their professions, you have to trust them.
Sure, they're the experts.
So you need to find someone worthy of trusting.
Well, I can tell you the reverse body dysmorphia. I have an aunt who's very heavy set and keeps getting surgery because I think at the root of it, she's not happy about being heavy set. But from the neck up, she looks great. She's had several facelifts. But then she had a breast reduction without changing anything else. And the whole family laughs continuously that we call it the booby-doo. Her belly sticks out further than her booby-doo. And the thing is, what doctor told her it's a good idea to go down to an A cup at, 270? And what doctor even takes that? Like, she looks not great. And I feel bad for her because in a weird way, she thinks she looks amazing. And
I said, listen, there's an
argument.
Like,
have you ever heard of reverse dysmorphia where they thought they were totally hot and the whole family's like, put your clothes on?
Yeah, but there's an argument to be made. If the patient ultimately feels attractive, feels confident, that's okay. Because at the end of the day, the goal isn't for you to think she looks attractive or you to think she looks good.
This is a very good point.
The point is but that's not the case normally.
No, it's not.
Normally, they do all the things you just mentioned, and then they look in the mirror and they're no happier than they were before. And arguably, many times, they're feeling more insecure than they did before because now, not only did they not fix it, now they have a bunch of scars. And the reality is that you need to find someone you trust. You need to check yourself. I think it's really important when you go down the plastic surgery route, you don't do it alone. You have your normal, sane co-pilot.
But so that means an important point. If the person wasn't happy before, they came in and they were like psychotically unhappy about their nose, what are the chances, as you said, that just a regular nose job, it was going to fix that problem?
If they're a normal person, 100%. 1 million times in my life, I have seen people come in moderately unhappy with the way they look. Regular, normal people, well-adjusted, with reasonable issues, in which we identified the problem clearly, we executed the surgery, and they are over the moon happy. That's not the conversation. We're talking about body dysmorphia.
But what I'm saying
We're talking about the person
who's...
No. We're not talking about people that are unhappy and we fix their issues. We're talking about people that are mentally not all there.
Systemically crazy.
Like there was a lady who wanted to look like...
No, I'm looking at the picture. Angelina Jolie.
Like,
she
so
looks
example,
ghoulish.
like there's a lady who wanted to look like Angelina Jolie. That's not a far-fetched. She's a beautiful icon. And she went to incredible lengths to the point that she looks...
ghoulish.
I mean, just unrecognizable.
She had her eyes made rounder.
Right.
She had her
so
face
that kind of person, body dysmorphia, which in that instance is pretty obvious, can only be facilitated through a surgeon. Like you can have body dysmorphia all you want, and you can't operate on yourself.
No, that's true.
So you can be anorexic, and you don't need anybody else to facilitate it. You just stop eating.
Right.
So you're your own culprit. But through surgical dysmorphia, you need to arrest the guy that did the surgery.
That's my point. So the takeaway from my perspective is that you're saying that the doctor has an ethical and moral obligation, as they say at first. Isn't it like part of the Hippocratic Oath? First, do no harm.
Yeah, but it's such a yes, and but it's such a general term. And what I repeat 100 times: you must protect yourself. Those times and days where patients can completely trust physicians to do no harm, and those are gone. We don't live in that era anymore. Those are the 50s or 60s. Nope. I don't know. Now you have to watch your own back. There is no overarching umbrella, watchdog, society, ethical, moral, blah. Go in, you got to do your homework. You go in, you have done your research. You got to go in, making sure that you've selected the right doctor. Do not assume that any white coat is going to make them know the right thing for you. And you got to take ownership. And if you fall into that subset, not the shades of gray of body dysmorphia, but rather the actual solid black color of body dysmorphia, it's unfortunate, but your loved ones have to help you. That's like being schizophrenic. You don't know you're schizophrenic. You don't know you have paranoia. The people that love you know you have paranoia. So if you're listening and you know someone and you love someone and you think that their condition or their desire for plastic surgery is beyond what's normal and they're starting to harm themselves, you have to intervene, much like people intervene with alcoholics, like they intervene with smokers, and they intervene with any other psychologically driven condition. And they're never gonna figure it out on themselves. And unfortunately, there are many, many unscrupulous physicians or providers who will facilitate that body dysmorphia into worse conditions.
Well, I think we're going to end it right there, although that's kind of a little bit of a Debbie Downer. Can I bring it back around to, if you love somebody and you see that they're caught in this cycle, speak up.
Oh yeah, they got to stand up for the people you love.
Step up and make sure that they don't fall prey to these unscrupulous people that need to put a deck on their house or pay double alimony. So is that good? Did we bring it back around to a better place?
Job,
okay,
you brought it up a notch.
Okay, good. So thank you for listening to this episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. I think we covered body dysmorphia utterly and completely. We hope that you'll listen to the next episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. Please download it and share it with your friends.